Hello, nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Nerd Rundown podcast, where we cover the latest in the nerd world of movies, TV, and more. I'm your host, Darren Simple. With me today is my co-pilot, Eric Herr. We also have a couple extremely special guests today. You already know our part-time co-host, Brett King. And along for the ride today, we have Bill Poore. We want to thank everyone for watching and listening in. You can find us on social media and YouTube at the Nerd Rundown, and you can listen to our podcast on all the major podcast services. So welcome to the show, gentlemen. You know, when we have a new guest on, we always like to ask the question, what kind of nerd are you? So Bill, welcome to the show. First time on the show. Let me ask you, what kind of nerd are you?
Thanks for having me, guys. So I guess I'm the kind of nerd who sort of dabbles in a little bit of everything. I'm clearly a huge Lego nerd, but you can see Harry Potter, Star Wars. I've got some Marvel stuff down there. I actually just picked up the Infinity Gauntlet. I would say if I had to pick what is my strongest nerd pool, it would probably be Marvel. I absolutely love Marvel movies. Not so much, and I know I'm going to hurt Brett's feelings with this one. I'm not a comic book guy. But I am a big Marvel movie guy.
Yeah, you're like me. I like the Marvel movies. I like the comics. Eric likes the movies. He's not much of a comic guy, but that's okay. We'll let it slide this one time.
I think we have names for you people. Posers.
Oh, that's a deep burn.
Cuts, Brett. It cuts
deep,
man.
We got under his skin, Eric.
Yeah.
When we have our meeting with the other 8 people that read comics, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
The Illuminati of comic nerds, making fun of the rest of the non-comic nerds. Anyway, we have a giant-sized, get it, Brett, show for you all today where we'll cover the latest on the rundown. And then we'll get to our maker episode where Brett and Bill are going to do a cooking show demonstration style show around 3D printing and showing us some really, really cool stuff and how 3D printing is really fitting into the nerd world these days. So with that being said, let's get to the rundown. First on the rundown, we have major, like I can't even say major enough. Major announcement with the launch of Spider-Man 3 No Way Home trailer coming out on Monday. We've got the Spidey connoisseur on the show today and Brett King. So I'm going to start off with you, Brett. First thoughts right off the bat.
Well, first I only watched like the official trailer. I didn't watch anything unofficial. Okay. So I'm basing everything totally off of that one specific trailer.
Okay.
It looks like they're doing like a mix between like the multiverse and the Spider-Verse, and possibly One More Day, which was kind of the right after the Civil War when everybody knew who Spider-Man was, and he wanted to undo that because immediately the second everybody knew who he was, he had Doc Ock attacking him. He had everyone going. Kingpin had a hit on everybody that he loved, so he had to change this fast as soon as he could. Aunt May was dying at the time, and he went to Mephisto to make a deal. And so I'm wondering, there's been so much talk of Mephisto in the MCU that it's got to come eventually, right? Like, we thought it was WandaVision for the longest time. Maybe it's here,
right?
And so I know there's been a lot of rumors about Doctor Strange possibly being that Mephisto character in disguise, which, I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree saying that Doctor Strange acts a little bit off in the trailer. And I think, but it's Marvel. You don't know if they're trying to make it look like he's off.
Right. Yeah, may not even see these scenes in the movie.
Right. So it looks like it's a cross between the two, which I think is a nice way of doing it, because One More Day was one of the least popular runs there are. One of the leastly mostest runs that there were.
I like it.
And so if they kind of combine that with the Spider-Verse, Dan Slott wrote both of them, I believe. So if they kind of combine the two, I think they'll get a little bit more of a popular.
Yeah, Marvel does this. They can take, or the MCU does this, where they can take a whole storyline and adapt it, or they can take elements of any storyline and maybe even just the best elements of that storyline and make their own movie out of it. So I definitely think that One More Day storyline had maybe some good pieces to it, that there were maybe something was there, and it was just maybe terribly written. It just changed his character so much, So
it was necessary
coming off that big revelation.
Yeah, at the time he was married, so the point of the hero's journey is they're always working for something, and he had it. He was Spider-Man. He had Mary Jane. Life was starting to go good, so they had to kind of give him a struggle. And people were mad because they kind of took that Mary Jane away from him. Yeah. And it's a comic book. It's a soap opera. There's always the adventure and the guy trying to get the girl. And Spidey's
always got to come up short. So let me switch to you, Bill. Let me get your thoughts on it. As a non-comic book fan, but fan of the movies, what did you think?
I was really excited. Spider-Man is not my favorite. He's definitely up there. So I was excited. I was sort of sitting on the couch watching it. My wife was in the kitchen making dinner, and she probably thought that some world-ending event was happening with the noises that came out of my body when I saw Doc Ock and Green Goblin. That was just sort of from my childhood, that was Tobey Maguire was, my Spider-Man. But I think one of the coolest parts with watching trailers is I'll go home and I watch them and I sort of take them in, but then I get to go sit down with Brett, who just does this nerd dump of every comic book thing. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. I got to go rewatch it. Oh, you're right. I saw that in there. They really focused on that. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. I'm really excited. And I think that we were on the subject of Mary Jane and obviously, her getting taken away.
Oh, you said obviously. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen. So I think that Brett's got a good point, because they clearly make a show in the first half of the trailer of how, invested they are in each other. They've got a good relationship. She's there by his side. She's standing with him through all that. So that has to play in. So clearly it's definitely moving in that direction, but I don't know. I'm really excited to see what they do with sort of the enemies from Spider-Man's past. I think it's really cool that they kept the same actors. That's going to be awesome. Yeah. And I'm sort of curious to find out, because in their multiverse, they died, right? So I'm curious to see how they sort of bring them in or explain that into this world.
We don't know if Doc Ock died. He just sunk to the bottom of the river with a dying star.
That's true.
And Alfred Molina, the actor who plays Doc Ock, he kind of opened his mouth last year and said how it happens, and I don't want to talk about it because it might be a spoiler in here, but we will get an answer to that question. So great question, and we'll get to Doc Ock for you, Brett, in a second, but let's ask Eric what you thought of the trailer.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Benedict Cumberbatch as Strange is just so great. He really is. And Brett's right. Maybe there was something a little off about him. I just thought they were playing his kind of sense of humor a little bit more than they have in kind of the previous stuff, where he's like, Peter, we saved the universe together, you can, and then, but then, he's like, it's weird, but I'll allow it, that but yeah, so, those guys obviously have that bond, because I was watching a little bit of Infinity War again last night.
Obviously.
You said obviously. Get all Mountain Dew full.
So watching Infinity War, a little bit of Infinity War last night, that whole sequence where they are on Titan with Thanos, and so they did form that bond. I know that Strange and Spider-Man definitely did form that bond, and so I think they're just kind of expanding on that. At least it seems like, where he would feel comfortable enough to say, "Look, my life is in shambles right now. I like all the people that I care for are in danger," and so that's when usually when you're backed into a corner like that, that's when you make a decision that you really should not be making. And Strange, at least from if it is Mephisto, this plays into his hand perfectly, because he really can start to manipulate things. If it's just Doctor Strange doing it because he cares for Peter and he wants to alleviate his suffering, that makes sense too. So, but gosh, man, some of those effects looked spectacular. When Oct came out, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. So I mean, I text you right away, and I was like, it's out and it's spectacular,
and amazing. My phone blew up that night. I had about 17 different people send me the trailer. I'm like, I know it's out, I got it. But I love that you guys send it to me, and please always do that, because sometimes I may not pay attention. Anyway, my thoughts on the trailer. When I first watched it, I was like, I couldn't really process all that they dumped on us in it. And then I've watched it about 10 times since, and I've really gotten a good feel for a lot of, kind of some of those points that we've talked about with the first half of the trailer is kind of really dark theme, where very heavy, like you could feel the heaviness that is going to be on Peter's shoulders now that his secret identity has been revealed. You're going to feel the heaviness of having multiple villains coming at him for whatever reason it might be. Doctor Strange felt really off to me, and again, I'll try not to talk about too many spoilers or any spoilers at all, but there's definitely some hints that it's more Mephisto than Doctor Strange. And like, I get they saved the universe together, but also Doctor Strange is about to just do this whole huge spell just because Peter's like, I don't want people to know I'm Spider-Man anymore, and he's just going to be like, yeah, okay, no problem, I'll do that, this giant spell. That feels a little, so I'm sure we'll get more context about that in the movie as it comes out. And really excited to see Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. We have Jamie Foxx's Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie confirmed as well. He is not the blue version. He's got the yellow lightning. You can see the yellow lightning. Yeah. So much more comic accurate in that sense. You saw, and this is in the trailer, so this is not a spoiler, but it's in the trailer. You saw possibly Sandman rising up out of nowhere as well. You saw, it was a very dark image, but the lizard took a swipe at him in the trailer. So when you start, I
just want the snout lizard. I hope it's the snout lizard.
I really want. Can we please get the snout? And they've had concept art for the snout. Anyway, I don't want the Goomba from the Super Mario Brothers, but so you saw a pumpkin bomb, and you heard Norman Osborn's laugh. Okay, so you have that. You have Doc Ock, you have Electro, you have Sandman, you have the Lizard. There's still one more to be revealed, and whom that is, we don't know. So there's more reveals to come. What else we didn't get in the trailer was no confirmation or even a hint, which I'm okay with, to no Andrew or Toby, no Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, previous Spider-Man. But you felt the heaviness of the trailer. Is he gonna need a pack of Spideys to help save the day? I really hope so. I'm really hoping that's the case. If it just turns out to be a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, I'm seriously okay with that. I know Banana, she would literally divorce me to go marry Tom Holland, so I'd be okay with that too. I would allow that. But we love Tom Holland in this house, so if it ends up just being Tom Holland, I'm cool with that. But if we get Toby and Andrew, this might be one of the biggest movies of all time. So I'm very, very excited for it. Brett, I know Doc Ock is your favorite villain. What kind of nerd boner did you get when you saw Doc Ock?
I don't want to talk about the nerd boner that I got, I guess, but I was like, when you see that hand hit, it was like, ugh, which I guess makes boner seem like a good term to use. But I'm very excited. Like the only one that doesn't fit is I'm glad he's in it. Like Sinister Six wise, the original one wasn't Green Goblin. Mm-hmm. They have all of them except for Mysterio. He was part of the original one, and Kraven.
Right.
So I don't know I feel like Mysterio's got to be the sixth one in there.
And he very well could be. He may not be dead from Spider-Man Far From Home.
To be fair, does he have to be? I mean, all the other ones are. I mean, it just has to be another reality.
Yeah, it could just become from another reality. Yeah, good point.
So that's my guess, and I'd be willing to bet Jake was under contract 7 years before they even filmed the last one.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, on the trailer?
Well, Darren, you brought up a good point in that we didn't see any of the other Spider-Man actors, but there's actually there's a lot of theories floating around that maybe we did. And Brett talked about this a little earlier. Marvel is known for modifying, editing their trailers. We saw that clearly with the Gauntlet. But in one of the scenes where he's standing on top of a car, he's wearing the same exact suit that Tobey Maguire wears in one of the first three Spider-Mans. I can't remember which.
Spider-Man 3.
So people are wondering, was that it was far enough away? Maybe they just did like a face overlay, and that actually was him, which is cool about.
That'd be cool. He's wearing the jacket, the tie, the shirt. That Tobey Maguire's wearing in the beginning of Spider-Man 3 when he fights Harry's Goblin. When he's like, it is really one of the great scenes from that movie when they fought.
That would make sense because he would know that Peter, because he says hello Peter, and he would know that Peter.
Right. And apparently that's right when he's brought out of the multiverse is the scene that we saw. So he's saying hello Peter, unless he's just knowing, Doc Ock knowing he sees a Spider-Man, maybe he's already suited up. And he knows that, that person under there is Peter. But
he's got to be wondering what's going on. The Spider-Man has like extra arms and armor. He's got a kill mode. This is not what I remember.
He's about 5 inches
short. The other one cried a whole lot.
Yeah. So there's so much that we could even break down more about this trailer that we'll probably get into as we get closer to the movie. December 17th is when it's released.
Yeah, I got to take a vacation day.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I cannot wait, and it's gonna be a lot of Spidey stuff.
Life-changing.
Running up. We'll do a full Spider-Man episode around it where we'll talk about our favorite Spider-Mans. Real quick, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Tom, Andrew, Toby?
Oh, Tobey Maguire, hands down. Just because that's what I grew up with.
Okay. Eric?
Loaded question.
Yeah. I want to say Toby, like with Bill, like I really loved the Tobey Maguire, and it really rebooted the entire superhero type stuff. So it very, very much set the precedent. But God bless that Tom Holland is one charming little dude. Like I just want to squeeze him, and I just want to stuff him in my pocket and take him with me. Like a little leprechaun. But he's just. So I got to go with Tom.
Okay, good answer. Do you want a few more seconds to think about it, Brett? Or you have an answer?
No, I got an answer. I've only had 6,000 students ask me this. Every kid that's ever walked through this room and looked at it. I have to go with Tom Holland just because I think he's the best of all the worlds. Like I thought Andrew Garfield was the best Spider-Man because he was wisecracking and he was a great Spider-Man, but he was a terrible Parker. And look that for Tobey Maguire, he was a great Parker and a terrible Spider-Man. I think Tom Holland gives you just the best of all the worlds.
And I believe we may have even
that's the thing is you believe he's a kid. You really do. Yeah.
You believe he's in high school, and even though he's grown like an inch or two in the last 8 years, but he still believes he's a kid, and he's still as adorable as ever. And I think we may have even talked about that. That's my exact sentiments. He's the best of both worlds. He really felt the best Peter Parker I think he's been. It was in Civil War in the room with Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. And I really felt that Peter come back in this episode when he's talking to Doctor Strange, and you feel that like that young Peter ignorance, desperation. And he's just like, I don't want anybody to know I'm Spider-Man anymore. Can you help me out with that? That felt like Peter Parker watching the trailer. So
I wonder how hard it's going to be. This is off topic, I guess, a little bit, but how hard it's going to be for him to come back to Marvel and be the Peter Parker after that. What's the next that movie he's in? What's the next one he's in?
Uncharted,
because he's a full-on man in that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a full-on man. In fact, he was telling a story about how his first days on the Spider-Man set, he was kind of walking like, he was walking confident, and the Sony producer, Amy Pascal, I think her name is, was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm walking." And she goes, "Peter doesn't walk like that. Peter doesn't walk with that much confidence." And so he had to kind of you got to bring it down a little bit. So a little bit of attention to detail there. I like it. Let's move on to CinemaCon. Next in the rundown, we've got a bunch of stuff that came out of CinemaCon, which is a big movie convention that happened in the past week. And start real quick with Ghostbusters Afterlife. We've talked about this pretty recently on the show and how it's gotten pretty good reviews, but it got screened to an audience, and the audience loved it. It wowed them, is what the article says. So I haven't got a chance to really talk to you, Brett, about Ghostbusters Afterlife. What do you think about the trailer that came out, or the news about how nothing but positive stuff's come out about it? Because I know you're a giant. I
am a big Ghostbusters fan. I think I'm looking forward to it. I love Paul Rudd. I'm glad. I think that's a great pickup, because it was always supposed to be comedians, and while he might not have been SNL background, I think he'll fit it just fine. Yeah. I don't want to say anything terrible about the last one that came out, because I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It felt a little off. It felt a little I really like the colors from it. I like the vibrant of it, and I hope they kind of keep with that, because I mean, when Ghostbusters came out, the original ones, I mean, they didn't have those effects. I mean, I don't want to just do effects the same just because they were the same. Like, yeah, this is 2021, so like we should have it a little bit different. So I want to keep. I'm excited because it looks like they're going to keep some of that nostalgic factor without just throwing everything out for the sake of throwing it out and saying this is ours now.
Yeah. Bill, what do you think about this news?
So I didn't watch the trailer, and I did not see the most recent Ghostbusters.
Did you see the old ones?
I will say I was surprised that there was so much positive feedback around it, which is actually nice, because nowadays it's sort of like everybody jumps on that wagon where it's like fun to root for things to fail. And you always want to see a good movie, right? It doesn't matter if the last one was terrible. You want the next one to be good so you can go and watch it and fall in love with it all over again.
Great point.
So that's exciting. I'm glad that there was positive reaction. I hope that actually follows through and we get a good product. And again, I didn't watch the last one, so I don't even have my own opinions on that one, just what I've heard.
Okay. We don't even need to talk about it. Eric, I know you're excited about it. What do you think about the news about more positive reactions to the new Ghostbusters?
Yeah, same thing. So we actually just had the kids this past week or last weekend. We had the kids watch Ghostbusters for the first time, and they loved it. They thought it was great. And I have not seen the vehicle with Melissa McCarthy and all them. I didn't watch that one. I just couldn't get into it, like I just wasn't excited for it. I don't know why. I'm excited for this one. This one looks really, really great. I did hear specifically some of the feedback, and this is what I've actually loved about the Cobra Kai series, is that some of the feedback was that it was the perfect level of nostalgia, so it brings back everything that you loved about the original, but then adds new stuff to it. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Like I love that element. That way you can continue to tell stories from that universe and it's okay. So I'm loving that. We've talked about the movies that made us in the back. The Ghostbusters is one of those, where they talk about, and you think, okay, well, you got Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Ivan Reitman, all these guys, like, this is a no-brainer. Like, how would this not get made? But then it's really hard to make it. And so for a movie like the other one to kind of bomb like that, it's kind of sad, because you know how hard it is. These people fight for these movies and they put a lot of love and stuff into it, and then when it just doesn't work, it's tough. So I'm hoping this one bounces back and brings Ghostbusters back, and my kids can now have a newer special effects laden type thing to kind of go off of. So
yeah, well, and Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, the director of the originals, directed this, put a lot of care and attention to detail to bring some of that nostalgic factor back into the movie and really feel like you're watching some of the original. So I'm really excited to see it more and more. I don't need to see any other trailers for it. My butt is in the seat day one.
Yep.
I feel like real quick, I feel like the biggest difference between this one and the last one that happened is the last one felt like it was almost like a different universe. Whereas this one feels like it's still trying to be connected to those original two.
That's a good point. Very, very good point. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow figured out a way to say it did happen in a separate universe, just to move it away from these vehicles. So, speaking of nostalgic factors, Jurassic Park Dominion got a trailer shown to an audience at CinemaCon, and not much detail out of it, but it did show a lot of scenes where the Jurassic Park cast is united with the Jurassic World cast. So you got Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, working with Chris Pratt and what's her name, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yep.
And it showed a lot of how the dinosaurs they're in the world now. It's like it's Jurassic World, where they're out in the open in the public, and really going to be cool to see that original Jurassic Park cast. I'm going to start with you on this one, Eric. What do you think about that trailer? Yeah,
my butt will be in the seat as soon as it comes out, I'll have a little 5-year-old next to me, probably 7-year-old too, but for sure a 5-year-old will be with me, and he will be super thrilled to see all that stuff on the big screen. So it's gonna be amazing. They've done a really, really, really great job with all of the Jurassic Worlds to this point. I actually felt like The Lost World was kind of a disappointment in the second series, whereas I felt like the one that they just did, Fallen Kingdom, was really great. I was like, man, this is almost, I wouldn't say better than the first Jurassic World, but it's gotten better. So hopefully this one, kind of keeps that slope going up. Yeah, so for sure. But I'm excited. I really am excited for it. I think nostalgia is maybe the theme for everything. Is
everything in this rundown?
In this rundown is going to be nostalgia, for the most part. And so for them to bring back, the Jeff Goldblum and Sam Neill. I love Sam Neill. He's a great actor. Laura Dern is a phenomenal actress. So I just think that's going to be pretty cool. And they're going to bring just some dynamite stuff to it. So I'm excited. And anytime to get to see Jeff Goldblum, it's probably
Anytime.
It's a pretty good day. So
more Goldblum, please.
Yeah.
Bill, are you a Jurassic Park fan?
Oh, huge Jurassic Park fan. I have a 2-year-old little boy named Atlas who is obsessed with Jurassic Park. He has watched every Jurassic Park movie that's been out. It's funny because he's a little guy, but he actually prefers the original 3 Jurassic Park movies to the Jurassic World. I don't know what it is.
Even
but
Jurassic
I'm
Park
excited.
3?
I'm excited. I think one of the things that's most exciting for me, being that I have a little boy who is now into Jurassic Park and dinosaurs and things like that, is what the movies and the continuation of the movies, what they spawn. We go and buy dinosaur Lego sets and Jurassic Park this and Jurassic Park that. So it's like it keeps it relevant, and it spawns just this whole world around itself that you can really indulge in.
Didn't you create his bed like around?
I did, yeah. So we redid his room to be sort of Jurassic Park themed. It's an entire dino themed room. We're building this, like wooden sort of like tent bed. It's pretty awesome. He's and one of the things we do, we'll talk about 3D printing a little later. I bring him home little resin 3D printed dinosaurs almost on a daily basis because they take about an hour or so to churn out, and he loves them. I mean, he's just amassed this little minifigure army of dinosaurs, which is really cool.
And you're going to say the name of every one of them right, because he'll get you.
Oh, he will. At 2 years old, he's almost. He will correct.
Yeah, it's crazy how like a 5-year-old knows like the scientific name for, you know. I'm like, hey, check out, that's the guy that shoots the venom. It's Dilophosaurus, Dad.
Right.
You know, like, hey, sorry. You know?
That is awesome. Future nerds or current nerds, really, in the making. Brett, Jurassic Park. Or Jurassic World Park Dominion.
I just hope we get to see Goldblum like doing his pose again. Like that's all I can hope for. I mean,
I can't. I need that Funko Pop.
And I don't know how they're going to charge people money to get in the park if they just run around the world. Like,
yeah. Well, it's Jurassic
and is
World
that going to like
Dominion.
hurt the
Jurassic
Pokemon
World,
Go situation?
The what?
The Pokemon Go situation, like
there's definitely a level of fallout from having, you know, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go on this hiking trail. Well, not really. There's a bunch of Velociraptor over there, you know, now.
And they are some clever girls.
Yeah, they are. like if I go for a run now, the worst I got to worry about is maybe some coyotes nipping at my heels. But now I'm working a whole pack of raptors, like
Velociraptors. There's definitely a scary factor to this movie to show what it would be like to have dinosaurs in the real world. So very excited for more Jurassic World Dominion stuff to come out, and cannot wait for that movie next year. Next in this CinemaCon Rundown, we had a Top Gun 2 trailer. A new trailer shown to the audience, and it blew people away. They also showed the first clip of the movie, which is super high intense scene. We're all, at least I know Eric is. I know Brett loves Top Gun. Bill, let me start with you. How excited are you for the Top Gun 2? Or not at all?
I'm kind of excited. I've never, and I know this goes against nerd culture. I'm not a huge Top Gun fan. It's one of those movies where I'll absolutely put it on and watch it because it's a great movie. But I don't really sort of like fully invest myself in it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll definitely be there and go watch it. It looks like a fun movie.
Yeah. Brett, what do you think? Are you awake? Are you napping?
No, I'm awake. I was looking for the Top Gun song. I was going to play the Take My Breath Away song for you, but I wasn't quick enough.
No, you know I love that song.
I've actually only ever seen Top Gun once. I don't know where you think I was a huge fan. I've only ever watched it one time.
I've placed that title on you, Brett.
I've only watched
a Top Gun fan.
One time with you, that one in the Army. That was the first and last time I've ever seen it. Like it was. And
it's the most special viewing of Top Gun you've ever had.
It was my favorite viewing of Top Gun. As long as there's a volleyball scene, we're good.
I think they've changed it up and made a football scene, like a shirtless football scene. So
is it football?
I don't know.
As long as it's not pickleball.
Are they wearing the same clothes? If they're wearing the same clothes, it's fine.
Oh, well, I just know that there's a topless football scene on the beach. So,
and
very much looking forward to that.
Is Goose coming back? Like, how does the multiverse work with that?
I don't think we can apply the same rules of multiverse physics. I
thought it was all the same.
End. Yeah. Well, maybe one day Disney will just buy everything, and we can bring Maverick into the MCU or something. Eric, I know you're. I know for sure you're a giant Top Gun fan. You've got Maverick in the background. Yeah, the Maverick helmet.
Right. I saw Top Gun 5 times in the movie theater in 1986. Wow. So it was amazing. So it just
changed your life.
Yeah, it really did. So I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I think they're going to do a great job. I heard that they've done some sort of mix between the Danger Zone and the Top Gun anthem for that opening sequence. And it'll most likely take place on the deck of the carrier like they did, you know, except we're getting, instead of Tomcats, we're getting Super Hornets and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Should have got it by now. Should have got it like a year ago.
Yeah. I think
Very
at this point, the fact they've been able to keep it a secret and keep, you know, anybody from leaking this type of stuff is pretty phenomenal.
Pretty impressive.
So, but yeah,
I don't think anyone talks to Tom Cruise anymore.
he's off filming Mission Impossible 7 right now, and I took it out of the rundown, but apparently he's filmed his most dangerous stunt. And if you've seen all of his previous stunts that he's filmed, I don't know how they could get any more dangerous, but looking forward to that.
Well, I mean, just real quick on that Mission Impossible. I mean, we'll talk about it just for a second, but like this most dangerous stunt that he did, he practiced. So it's a motorcycle parachute jump. He did 500 jumps out of the airplane to prep for that role, and then 13,000 motorcycle ramp jumps in a year to get prepped for it. And then on the day that they actually filmed, it was the first day of shooting, they did this, and they've built like this ramp out in the middle of Norway, in the middle of nowhere, and he did the actual thing like 6 times, and each time that he goes off the end of this thing, he held the bike longer and longer and longer to keep doing it. And so it's like, man, and Christopher McQuarrie, the guy who's directing it, said it was the most dangerous thing they'd ever attempted, except for what they're planning for Mission Impossible 8.
Of course.
I have no idea what that's going to be. So
I imagine it gets upped and upped every time.
It just tallies every time Tom Cruise does something crazy, and they're like, "Oh, you're at 17,000 jumps."
Yeah, there's a really funny Tom Cruise clip on the Graham Norton show about how he fired his stunt coordinator because he said it was too dangerous, and he goes, "I finally got approval for the stunt." And Graham Norton goes, "Well, how'd you get approval for it?" He was saying no. He goes, "Well, I fired that stunt coordinator, got somebody who would say yes to me." Like, that's Tom Cruise right there. Yeah. Last on the CinemaCon Rundown, we have Matrix, the new Matrix movie, which is supposed to release soon. We don't have a trailer for it yet, but we got some story details and we got a title. It's called The Matrix Resurrections. So the subtitle, Resurrections. Not very many plot details, but a lot of it takes place in the Matrix, where he's Thomas Anderson, back kind of probably plugged in, going through some therapy. Trinity's in it, also in the Matrix, plugged in. It sounds like they don't really know that about their previous life, but they have some familiarity. Like those two meet in a coffee shop, and they're like, "Do we know each other?" So there's a bit of like some maybe not necessarily amnesia plot, but as you know, the Matrix was reborn, and it's like a cyclical nature of the Matrix just is rebooted, and there was some shots in the of them outside of the Matrix, inside the Matrix. So either way, it doesn't matter because we got a title. We know now that it sounds like they're going to be fighting to get unplugged again, which not necessarily a retread of the first one, but maybe some of the same elements. They'll do new visual effects. They'll do some great action. Very much looking forward to some a revisitation of the Matrix world. Brett, what do you think about the new Matrix coming out?
It'll be one that, I like the Matrix. It was a good movie. It wasn't something I saw in the theater, and I think the first one I didn't see because it was relatively unknown, like to me at least. I was a kid and I didn't do anything. Yeah. And then the other ones, I feel like we were in the Army at that point.
Yeah.
I feel like we were always gone.
Yeah.
So
we never huh? I feel like we saw it in Iraq, like on a copy. Yeah.
And so it'll be one of those things where, like, because I'm a creature of habit and it's just the way I am, like, because I didn't see it in the theater, I won't go to the theater. Like, I'll wait until I can watch it at home because that's just how I am, because that's how I saw the other ones. So that's how I have to see this one, which is just how I am. Yeah. But like they're good. I just watched, I think, the first one the other weekend. And I mean, yeah, that one scene gets a lot of fun made of it because of the bullet time, and it's been recreated 100 times. And no, it doesn't hold up amazing, but a lot of that stuff still holds up, and a lot of the stuff is still what a lot of movies base their everything around. It's like an Unreal Engine.
Yeah, for sure. Eric, what do you think? I know you're a big Matrix guy.
Yeah, well, the whole simulation theory fascinates me. You know, the whole thought of that we are in a simulation, or that you could create a simulation so real that you wouldn't even know the difference between everything. So that absolutely fascinates me. I'm cautiously optimistic on this one. I really am. I would have been fine if they just stopped with the first one. The second one and the third one were okay, but the first one was just a total mind bender. I mean, I just really, you could take it for an action movie like Die Hard, and like Brett said, it's somewhat when you think about it, it's a staple now of every movie after Die Hard was hey, it's Die Hard on a ship, Die Hard in a here and now, and then every action sequence has to be better than the Matrix action sequences, and the fight scenes need to be better than the action. They need to be the camera, the bullet time stuff. Let's do the bullet time thing for this. So groundbreaking stuff, and you can't when you're a filmmaker and everybody tries to copy you've done well. So hands down, they were amazing. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I want to see it. I saw the first one in the theater. I did not see the other two in the theater. I take that back. I did see the second one in the theater. So Brett, I don't know what do I do? Like if I
I don't know what you do.
Do I
go for like half the movie? Start at the end and wait.
I'll go halfway through the movie. Like I'll just talk to the people in the front and be like, "Hey, could you just let me know when the movie's like halfway over?" And I'll
like, could you film it with your phone and send it to me?
That's what somebody should do. Go have like BT like bootleg it off of his phone, Brett, and then you can watch it at home and on bootleg version.
There's very few movies that like if I haven't seen it in the theater, I'll go see it in the theater. Like the second one was I can't think of any off the top of my head.
That's funny. Yeah, no, but I'm looking forward to it. Bill, what about you? What do you think?
I'm really much I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I remember watching, I had the DVDs in high school, and I remember all my buddies coming over and we stayed up all night, watched them back to back. And it was like, you watched them because it was a good action movie. But I think beyond the first one, I can't even remember the details of the others, to tell you the truth. This is one I probably won't see it in theaters, but I will definitely see it when it eventually releases on either a streaming platform or something. Again, a good action movie, definitely worth a watch. I don't think I'll go to theaters to see it though.
Yeah, I mean the second one, I think it started out pretty strong and it had some really cool action, and then it just delved into like once it got to the architect and he's just like vis-a-vis blah 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 blah, and it's just like shut up. This is too much info dumping, but too much exposition, and then the third one is just it's going to be hard to live up to the original always, but the story was just terrible for the third one. So hopefully they get a little bit of redemption out of this, and looking forward to more Matrix. I mean, the Matrix, when we were in the Army, the Matrix was a big part of our world because we had video games and the movies. And so again, all everything in the CinemaCon that came out was all of it had a very big nostalgic factor to it. So we have big ties to it, and we're looking forward to seeing more of it. Thank you guys for joining the rundown and talking about that. Some really great feedback on all of that stuff. I'm very excited to move the episode into our Maker episode and really get to see how things are made through a 3D printer, and get to show you all how things are made through a 3D printer, and really find out how this new 3D printing world is fitting in within the nerd world of nerds. So I'm going to start off. I always kind of like to start with the why. It's the really emotional piece of everything. The why behind 3D printing. I'm going to start with you, Bill, with being the first time on the show. Why don't you talk to us about why you love the 3D printing, why you like creating, why are you a maker, I guess.
So one of my big idols is Adam Savage from Mythbusters. I'm sure you all know who he is. He is a huge supporter of the maker movement. I love making, clearly. I do Legos, which is, believe it or not, a form of making. I don't consider myself to be artistic, though. I don't think I'm a great painter. It's hard for me to sort of do any type of, like manually carving of wood or things like that. So the thing that excites me the most with 3D printing is it opens up this world of making to people like me who aren't artistic enough to create something by hand, but can still use a machine now in place to sort of get a product that they're happy with or that they're excited about. And it actually, that's what really inspired me to start the makerspace at Kent County Public Schools, which is where Brett and I both work, because it brings these kids in who, like, they want to create their favorite prop from a video game or their favorite, comic book character or movie character. And it's really cool to see kids come in who don't consider themselves to be makers, who are like, oh, I could never do anything like that. And then with a little bit of practice, they're churning out these really cool things. It's just, for me, it's awesome. It really, it hits me like right there.
I love that. And I can really relate to that. I'm not creative. And so Eric and I talk about it. I know I've talked about it before on the show. I'm not a creative person. Right. Running this podcast has definitely forced me to find a bit of my creative side. But if I had a machine that did it for me, that would be awesome. So I can relate to that. Brett, you have gotten into this world through your engineering classes, right? Through your being a teacher in the engineering world. Why don't you talk a little bit about why you love this world of 3D printing as well?
I love the processes of a lot of things. I like just watching something go from nothing to amazing. And I just like watching that process. So this was like, I've always been, even when I was young, I just like Bill said, I'm not artistic. Like, with a little practice, I can get okay, but I'm not great at anything. And so, like, I like to paint miniatures. That's what I like to do. And so I kind of got into it because I got tired of paying for miniatures that, like, you couldn't ever, like, customize them to be something that you want. Like, I'm in the comic books, and if I want to paint in Spider-Man, well, that's not out there. So, like, I started getting into it because I wanted to be able to paint something that I made instead of went out and buy and things like that. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Do you have a mini? Do you have? It's a good story. Do you have a minifigure next to you that you could show us what kind of your work you've done?
I don't here at school. Most of them I keep at home.
That's okay. I just wanted to have them see a physical representation.
I mean, here would be one that's not painted. Here's one that's not painted.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. So just to get an idea of the size that you're talking about when you say minifig, they are mini.
Yeah. And then I've kind of moved into the bigger ones where, like the ones that I've shown here before, where like Bucky here. He's much bigger, but.
Mm-hmm.
Where's his head?
Oh, it's around here. Here's his head. Here's Mask Head.
Cool. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a bit of a cooking show demonstration about, you guys are going to show us how you've made some things. And we've got videos to show. And I'll let you guys kind of take it from here, kind of show us what the process is, what we're seeing. It's some really cool videos. So Bill, Brett, take it away. Eric, if you have questions, go ahead and ask. I'll interject with some questions as well. Definitely as we're seeing things, I'm going to be asking questions. So Eric, please feel free to jump in too.
So this is our newest toy. I'm actually going to let Brett go over this one because I think I'll handle the FDM 3D. This has been a lot of fun. It's a huge learning process. So I'll let Brett start with this one.
Well, this one is with that wonderful intro to 3D printing. This one's not a 3D printer. This is a laser cutter. And I actually did that wrong now that I'm watching it. But it's just an order thing. So this one is a laser printer. So like what you're seeing is that laser going back and forth. So this one works very simple. It is And what's nice about it is you could actually run it from where you guys are right now. You could run our machine from where you're at right now because it's web based. So all it is drag and drop. So I went online and I got a picture, and I don't know if you have to convert it to any format, but you kind of bring it into there's literally a camera on the top of this Glowforge. When you open the program, you look at this piece of wood. It looks very similar to this screen here, where you see the piece of wood that you put in there. You just kind of drag the picture over it, and then you kind of finagle some settings with you want it to cut, engrave, how deep, how much detail. What we used in this one is I told it to vary the power. So like you can see the shading. I'm about to point at the screen, like you can see me pointing at the screen. Like you can see the shading like to the left and right of those letters where it's a little bit darker. So that's the shading that's doing. You can also change it to like convert to dots. So it would be very like comic booky, where like they use like one laser to kind of make each dot.
So this is a laser cutting this right now.
Yep. So underneath that brick that says Glowforge, it's a straight laser that is cutting it, and you can get extremely precise because it is razor thin. It is a straight
and you said
laser.
you just dragged and dropped an image and it knows to cut that. That's
so
cool.
this is the best machine. This is my favorite machine to start kids out on, kids who have never done anything with 3D printers or the CNC, because it literally, Glowforge has done such a great job of just creating this really intuitive interface where you literally take a picture in almost any format, you drag it onto the screen, you put it right over top your piece of wood, and you can dumb it down to two settings. Do you want to cut it or do you want to engrave it? And that's really it. Now you can get much more involved. Like Brett said, you can vary the laser power, you can do dots, convert the dots. And there's some different, fun things you can do. But in its simplicity, it really is drag and drop and click, and it goes. So it's just easy to do. It's easy to get kids into, and anybody really. It's just a simple process.
And while
it
might be simple, like if you hop online and YouTube Glowforge, there are people that have made careers out of this. Like they've bought two of these machines and they make an Etsy store, and they're like, "This is how I made $75,000 this year." Like they've killed it using like one or two of these machines, and because it's so simple, it's just one of those things where you just got to keep the machine running. It never stops.
Right.
Like you've got to keep it running. It's just like Bill said, it's very drag and drop. The way I kind of screwed it up here is you see it's like creating like a silhouette of Captain America there. But first I went around and it cut it in that square, and I should have flipped those. I was rushing this morning because you'd probably in reality like want to engrave it, then cut it out, because
then cut, right?
Yeah, because it cut there, and if it had fallen, it would be askewed a little bit. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's like you added too much sugar to the brownies. We get it.
Yeah, but you added like it's like you baked it before you added the sugar.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So I apologize. My dog is kind of freaking out right now, and I'm trying to calm her down.
Is it because of the lasers?
Yeah, she's afraid of lasers.
So obviously, clearly we're using wood here, and almost said obviously. But what kind of, is it only wood that you can use as a material for this, or does it also?
No,
take it away, Bill.
You can do pretty much anything, and people have really pushed that pretty much anything to the edge. We've done aluminum. We've engraved aluminum. We've done MacBook cases, like actually on the physical MacBook. We've done phone cases is a really big one. Yeah. I know people have done like animal bones. They do tumblers. I mean,
because you could literally, you could precisely control the depth that the laser. You can precisely control the depth that it cuts at. Oh, that's
and Eric, that's actually one of the really cool things is you can take, and this to me it blew my mind. You can take a piece of wood and you can have the laser score it in such a way that that wood will then bend perfectly and it doesn't crack. So I played Dungeons and Dragons. I made a D&D screen out of a solid piece of wood that now hinges with no actual hinge. It's just cut through at the perfect depth that you can actually rotate those.
I feel like that's cheating, Bill. I feel like that's cheating.
That's really, really fascinating.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And Is it dangerous? Like you said, this is kind of a good introductory way to do things. Like it's not.
So it's
not easy to hurt yourself.
It's actually really safe. The machine has a cover on it. It's a glass cover over top. If that cover opens, it stops automatically. I would say if there were a danger, what you need to be aware of, one, it exhausts. So you have to route the exhaust outside, depending on what you're cutting. So for example, some soft phone cases can actually produce a gas that is not good to breathe in. So you want to make sure you're exhausting it outside. And then the other danger is, of course, you're cutting wood with a laser. So there is a risk of fire. It's really, really low, but you always want to keep it somewhere near a fire extinguisher if something happens.
But do you still get that amazing wood smell?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just cut a sign. My brother is getting married next weekend, and his fiance asked me to cut a sign for her. And the first thing that my wife said when I brought it home and showed it to her, she's like, "Oh my God, I love the smell."
Yeah, nice. So what were you gonna say, Brett?
It's one of those machines. It's not like I would never be afraid to let a kid just go at it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also one of those machines I would never let run while I wasn't in the room.
Okay.
One of the very first things a kid did when we got, I think day one, we had a girl come in and she cut into a chocolate bar. Like she engraved on a chocolate bar a butterfly. Like that's how detailed it is. Like you can put food in there and it didn't melt the chocolate. It didn't cut through it. It was a straight.
It's like a lightsaber cutting through an arm.
Well, and you can actually see the beam because it's producing smoke as it's cutting. So it's really cool to see that beam coming out of the laser head.
Oh man, that's so cool.
And I don't know if you can see it. I'm a huge BioShock fan, so I laser cut this phone case, so you can see the BioShock logo on the back, and then there's some.
It's kind of unfair that you guys get to do all this cool stuff for free. I get to put whatever I want on my phone case. That's cool.
And then, it'll do a lot of things. So you can put like jeans in there, and it will score your jeans, not cut through them, but just like you can give it a worn look on like the back of your jeans. It'll do leather. I think it'll go up to. It'll discolor granite. It won't cut it or engrave it, but it'll discolor it to the point where you can put an image on something, but it's not. It's still that smooth finish to it.
That's really cool.
So you can see here that it's a Captain America silhouette with a Skinny Steve silhouette in it. So that's such a cool image. And now it's been fully rendered. Would you say that's rendered? What's the word that you would say?
Fast rendered. It's processed.
It's processed. Cut. It's done. It's cut. It's late. It's been lasered.
So boom, there it is.
So there's the finished product. That is so cool. I think, again, you can put any image in there and have it made to whatever you want. So that's kind of what you said, Bill, is like the introductory now, the introductory machine that you use. What's next on the list?
Well, before we get to what's next, we made like these for you guys. And so it's kind of got all of them at the top, right?
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
So at the bottom, we took you guys' photos, and so it'll take a photo and it'll do them.
Wow.
So I don't know if you can.
That is spectacular, man.
And then
that is super cool.
The logo, and look at that handsome guy.
That's right. Oh, he's handsome. Beard and everything.
So we cut two of those.
Awesome.
And we'll send them out to you guys.
That's really great. Well, thank you, man. That's really neat.
Cheers to you.
Yeah. Thanks, dudes. Appreciate that.
Oh man, that's awesome. Cannot wait to display that.
Yeah, now I got to figure out where on the wall behind me that's going to go. But yeah,
that is so cool. Maybe we'll down the road do something like we'll have you guys create something and we'll do a giveaway or something.
Well, to be fair, you guys can do it because it's an online machine.
Oh, you can.
Like
your machine or just like
that one there, Bill can run it from his house. You can, you can
all you need is a login from anywhere that you are, and it's totally browser based. So that machine is connected directly to the internet. So when you send things to it, like when Brett sends something to it this morning, he's not actually plugging into it. He's just sending it to the browser, and then their servers communicate directly with it.
And then you have like a material. Somebody's obviously going to be there to put the material
that's
in.
The only thing is someone
that,
has to be there to hit the start button.
Okay.
Cool.
That is really neat.
I'm gonna have you guys laser some shit for me.
Right.
You can.
Everybody does.
I've seen people put tumblers in like their coffee cups. I've seen that. The only difference is the depth of it. So like you can't actually fit the coffee cup into it because the laser, you've got about that much space inside it. Right. So they always buy those ones, like the tumblers with like the peel off silicone,
right.
I don't know what you want to call it, sleeve.
Yep.
Right.
And they kind of flatten that out and they put it down, and then they'll laser that, pull that out, and put it back on their.
Oh, like a wrap, cool. Like a skin, like a wrap.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it called? Of course I know what that is. Okay.
That's cool. So you guys want to move on to?
Do you want
to do the hammer or the handle? Do we want to do?
Let's start with the hammer, and then we'll move on to the handle. So this is what Eric's going to pull up is what most people think of when they hear a 3D printer. So this is your standard FDM 3D printer, and we're just running PLA, which is a really cheap, widely available plastic.
My dog's making an appearance on the podcast.
All right.
Which machine is this?
So this is
Marnie.
This is one of our this is one of our Creality 3D printers. Actually, I've always wanted to print a Thor's hammer ever since I got a 3D printer. One of the first
like I gotta get a Mjolnir.
But the problem was up until recently, the standard size of a build plate, it wasn't big enough to actually print a life-size Thor's hammer. So we have a bunch of 3D printers, but this one is it's a CR10 Pro. So it's got a huge build volume. It's way bigger than our others, and it was big enough to build a life-size Mjolnir.
Oh,
so
cool.
This is
how big? How big is it?
It's actually fairly large, and the thing that surprises most people is how much it weighs, because you hear plastic and you think it's light, but it's actually really thick with that infill, and it's surprisingly heavy.
Okay.
And then this is so we wanted to do a 2-color print, because right now, for the most part, prints are only one color. There's things that you can do, like stopping at certain layers and changing the color. There are some machines that do dual or even triple extrusions, so you can do different colors. But for this one, the handle is done in this what they call wood PLA, so it's supposed to mimic wood. And then the handle was done, or the hammer piece was done in granite. And then they actually just slot together, and once that handle goes in, it locks in. And I haven't been able to remove it without fear of breaking it.
Did you put a strap on it too? Can you like a wrist strap that?
I'm sure you probably could. I haven't on mine. I don't think you've put one on yours, Brett.
No, I like how it's got a very like large Lego feel. Like I feel like a Lego person carrying this thing around.
Oh, like you're a Lego figure.
Yeah, like I'm a Lego figure. Like it fits funny in my hand and it snaps. When he talks about layers, the way they work is like they have, like I can't even tell you how many layers this one is. Mm-hmm. Think of it like being sliced, because the programs they use are called slicers. So they slice them into thousands of layers, and then that's what the machine reads. Follow this track. Come to the next layer, follow this next track. Right. So the filament printer kind of works very similar to a hot glue gun, where the nozzle there, where you see it, gets hot, and it forces that plastic, in this case that PLA, down through that nozzle, and it melts. Mm-hmm. And then it goes around following the XY coordinates that are placed into it. Then it moves the Z coordinate up 1, and then it follows the new XY coordinates for you math fans that said, I'm never going to use math again in my life. Like those people are now taking it to the bank.
No, and that's actually really important to know, because that's one of the primary differences between this machine and the machine that we're going to do next is these are incredibly slow. So that the actual body of the hammer was a 3-day print, 3 solid straight days of printing.
You just watched 3 days.
I think was about 2 days. These are in cabinets that are lit, because literally the room goes dark at night and we couldn't see the hammer. So we got lights to put on it so we could actually see it. But it is, I mean, it has to melt and lay that plastic down one layer at a time. And it takes, 5-10 minutes, depending on how detailed it is per layer. And it just builds and builds and builds.
And you got to make sure you've got enough material, because we did that hammer the one time and it ran out of material, like right at this point here. Yeah. And so we got like 2 days into it and it was garbage. Like it was.
And one of the cool things, you can actually see it in this one here. So I don't know if you noticed, there were like rings, there were like indents on that print. Yeah. So really curiously, that was printing during the school day. And one of the kids came in, and it's in an enclosed cabinet, and printers print better when they have a warmer surrounding environment. And the kid opened the door and they left it opened. So all that heat went out, and you can actually see that's what caused those rings to form. And then when I came in that afternoon, I closed it, and you can see it actually goes back to where it's that nice, consistent print.
Like it looks like it's that ring is like right above that first triangle notch and below that eye notch. Is that what is that what you're talking about? No,
it's the one that's actually on when it goes back to the hammer portion. You'll see it. It's really noticeable because it printed like that for several hours.
I think it's noticeable for you guys, but I don't know about me.
Well, Eric, can you go back to where the hammer starts printing?
Yeah. So
did your principal ever come in and be like, "Why are you guys printing Thor's hammer?" like this is what I paid. This is what
they're usually just extremely amazed at the capabilities.
And they're very supportive. So you can actually see it here. So if you keep going, so just let it play. So do you see that
you can
ring?
See its malformed, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
like
God.
That was the theory that the door was left open.
So bad. Yeah. That's terrible. God, how can you guys allow that?
No. Yeah, you should probably send that. You should probably send that screw up to like Darren and I.
You guys can dispose of it for us.
Yeah, to just keep it, because it looks
I don't know if you guys will be able to lift it.
Just you guys don't want that displayed.
We got to get people in here to get it out of the cabinet for us.
Right, that's disgusting. I would.
You got to find somebody worthy. Okay, so you guys have that. Then the really cool piece of this is when you get to 3D print your own action figures, right?
So this next one it's a resin 3D printer, and these have always blown my mind because they work sort of in a similar fashion, but almost in reverse, where you're curing something from a vat of liquid resin. And it's always, I love watching these time lapses because it looks like you're just pulling something up out of this, little 1/4 inch deep pool of liquid. It blows.
This is so cool. Now, what's really cool about this video is Bill has got some really great video camera equipment. This is about 1 billion pictures put into one video.
Yeah,
it looks like it's just one video rising, but it's a ton of pictures, right?
Yeah, so this one was actually, that first one you see here, that was an 8-hour print. And the camera is set up so every time it cures a layer, it takes a picture. And it ended up being something like 2,400 some odd pictures that we just put together in a time lapse.
That's so cool. So show us what we're looking at, or tell us what we're looking at.
So this is Captain America. So that was his body, his legs, his body, and then he has 2 different heads, one with a helmet, one without. And then this next one that you're going to see here is a base with the big Avengers logo on it, and then his shield. And the little sort of, I don't know how you would describe that, the little strings that you see on it, those are supports. So those are what allows, it bridges the gaps between the build plate and the actual object, because you can't obviously just print over thin air.
Oh, you said obviously.
Yep.
You guys think I'm not listening, but I always hear the obvious.
So Brett, I'll let you talk a little bit more. This is actually a model that Brett downloaded. Is that
the finished?
He subscribed to his.
That would be the finished.
Yep. So that's the finised product.
And this is from that guy, Brett, that you really.
Yep.
Okay.
That Patreon, Cinex, as I believe his name.
Yeah, we'll put his link in the description again, so you guys can see his collection of 3D stuff that he prints out, and where Brett gets his really cool. What do you call them?
Print files or STL files.
Print files. So, and this is back to the beginning, right? This was looped.
Yeah.
So kind of, again, tell us a little bit more. Yeah.
So what you're not seeing is every time this one has, it really gets rid of the X and Y of the coordinates there. What it sees one layer at a time. It really only works on the Z. So what it does is down below that, so it has a vat, right? You have a vat of the liquid, which is a photopolymer resin there.
Okay.
And so photo is light, right? So when light hits it, it hardens. So it's a liquid until light hits it. So when it's sitting in this pool, underneath it, there is a UV light that shines up through the bottom.
And so, you can see that coming up, right? Right? Isn't there a light in there?
You can't see it because it's the liquid is on top.
Maybe I'm thinking of something different, but okay.
Yeah, and it's so almost like a TV screen on the bottom. And it'll open up certain areas of the screen to let the light through, and that's where it cures specifically.
So it actually prints from the bottom up. It doesn't where the other one is it starts at the bottom and it layers up as you go. But this actually starts from the bottom and then it just stacks and pushes it up. That's really fascinating. That's really
what does that feel like? What is this like finished product? What does it feel like?
So when it first comes out of the vat, it's slimy until you wash it off, depending on the resin that you're using. So the one we like to use is a water washable one, so you can just clear it off with water. But the more common one is usually alcohol washed, so you'd wash it in an alcohol bath. But we like the water just because it's readily available.
Alcohol bath, huh?
Yeah, like rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
But it's very slimy. Then when you get it out, when you actually get it like cleaned off and you let it dry, it's kind of got a soft feel to it because you need to finish hardening it. So once you would have it done, like once you cleaned it off, what you end up with is like here's that model here, right?
Right.
So you end up with all these supports on it, and these would just break, and you will kind of clear them off. You can just kind of pull them off.
And do you need to I used to build model airplanes as a kid. I always loved to build model airplanes, and so you'd have the plastic spears on the side that would hold the wing or the fuselage and everything, and so you'd clip those off, and then you'd have to sand them down and make them and in some cases you had to like put filler in and all that stuff. So these just come off, and is there no residue left over where you have to clean that up, or is there any like a
piece that's left off?
Yeah,
you could do these with like the filament, that first printer we saw, and you're gonna have that exact. You're gonna need a pair of those, right?
Yeah,
to kind of clip those edges off,
right? And
then you're gonna do some sanding to get it clean. With this one, those little points on the what are we calling them again, Bill?
The supports.
The supports, like those little points, you can actually go in and control them. So we can tell that we want you to actually put a layer in between that point and the actual object that's not there. So we see it like this, but the machine sees one tiny layer between it that isn't actually touching it.
Yeah, there's actually a gap that you can't even see with your naked eye where it's not actually touching the model. It's just using it sort of as support, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
That's why you're able to kind of like we see all the supports, but you're able to kind of pull it off almost.
And there is no, like Eric, you were asking, there are no little dimples or anything that you need to clear. I mean, it comes off clean for the most part. Every once in a while, depending on the angle.
That's American Dance.
So now, can you do this? Can you do different color? I mean, does that resin stuff come in different colors?
It does. Gray is the most commonly used. I actually have some like clear blue, clear red, which makes some really cool prints. I've seen online where people have they've taken resin pigments and they'll dye their resin different colors. I've tried that and haven't had much success with it.
Yeah.
But
when you say clear red, like a translucent?
You have it here, Bill? I'll go grab it.
yeah, I don't think I have one there or here, but yeah, it's actually totally translucent. So I printed a Captain America for my office, and I did Captain America is clear blue and his shield is clear red, and it looks almost like it's an ice sculpture. It's really
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool. All right. Well, go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was just going to ask. So the various materials. So let's talk about cost. Like for the various printers that you've shown, what do they cost, and then what does the materials cost and all that? So how does that work?
Go ahead, Brett.
I usually just go on Amazon, and I buy the resin straight through Amazon. It's usually about, for a bottle this size, 1,000 grams there.
Yeah.
It'll be about $40, which sounds like that's pretty pricey, but I'll usually get about 3 or 4 of these figures out of it.
Okay.
So if you were to kind of compare that to, all right, if I were to go to the comic book store and buy one of these figures, you're paying quite a bit more for it.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, an action figure that size is probably $20-$30 at Target or something,
Right.
So
going back to the glow one
Forge?
though. So for the Glow Forge, how much does that machine cost?
I think the base model starts at slightly over 3,000, and I think they go up to like 5,000 for the Pro model. So that's a heavy initial investment. The thing that I really like about the 3D printer, so a resin 3D printer is $150 to $200, and then like Brett said, you're paying $40 per bottle. My favorite,
$150 a printer?
That one you're looking at,
yep,
is $150.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Wow, that is incredible.
Well, it's Moore's law. I mean, technology changes so fast.
My favorite thing is actually the last printer we looked at, the FDM printer, because that printer is, again, about $150 to $200, depending on what model you're getting. But that PLA plastic that you're using is 20 cents per roll, and that roll will last you pretty much forever. I mean, you're talking about cents for a print. So like that Thor's hammer is probably under $1 in material.
Wow. So here, kind of a weird question. Is it hollow?
That's not a weird question. I was thinking that same thing, actually.
No, so like they are hollow.
Yeah.
You can tell it to be solid. You can definitely tell it to be solid, and it'll get more heft, but it's going to cost you more because it's going to cost more materials to
use more resin.
So I was thinking you could make that entire thing hollow. If you could control every single layer, you could make the majority of that thing hollow, and you wouldn't even.
So that's why these 2 holes are here. So it's hollow because you need to drain out all that material because it's a liquid, right? So you need somewhere for it to drain out.
Yeah. Right, because as it's curing, it's actually capturing resin inside of it. So at the end, it has to drain out. So you need to make sure you add holes to it.
I have a semi-serious question. You said something about heft, like you could put more heft to it, and it like by layer. Mm-hmm. Could you make Captain America's ass bigger if you wanted to? Like, could you control it down to that kind of detail?
I know you're
mean, you could make the entire thing bigger, but it's not going to fit.
You can't add to it, right? Like you have your file, and that's what it's going to be.
You could modify the actual file itself. You can put it into. So when you 3D print something, you take a model, right? You put in a slicer, and the slicer's job is to say, hey, this is a 3D model. I'm going to break it into layers, and I'm going to tell the 3D printer what to do with each layer. All right. Okay. But you can actually go back to the beginning step, and instead of putting it straight into a slicer, you can open it up in any 3D editing software, and you can make changes to that model before you even slice it and send it to the printer.
That's cool. I'm gonna wrap this section up. Great stuff. I mean, this is some cool stuff. I may never buy another toy again. I might just call you guys and have you build me a toy or something. But so cool. I would love to have my own Thor's hammer. Seriously, that would be awesome. Can you like make jewelry? Like, is that another thing? Like, you can make jewelry.
We had a kid. He made the boutonniere. And
what's it called? I wish I had a. They did their corsage and their boutonniere for prom. They actually cut that on the laser engraver, the Glowforge.
That is cool.
But he did it with like different types of wood, so it had different shades of
different colors.
He had like a red wood.
Oh,
then
cool!
He had a white one. Yeah. Then he was prom king or prom queen. How do you?
Yeah, seriously, you're like the coolest kid in school for that.
One of the big things right now in prop making is people are using these 3D printers to make chainmail, because you can actually have. I don't have any with
for
me.
LARPing.
Brett's seen these where you can make a model that comes right off the 3D printed bed that is flexible. It has joints that will move within each other, and people will recreate that and make chainmail pieces and things like that are actually flexible and movable.
That's cool. I only ask about like jewelry and stuff because 3D printing is not just about toys. It's really changing the world. People, heart valves have been printed to save a life. So it's more than just like, here's some cool toy shit. This is a something that is going to be changing the world. And you two are. We're so lucky to have you guys in this world and be able to show us and teach us. And
no, we're using it for toys. We're showing.
Yeah, you guys.
Well, I actually.
You're not the ones creating the heart valve, but yeah, I get it. But we're lucky to have you guys as the introductory to it.
So I live stream our board meetings, and one of the things I found is the cameras that I use that attach to the ceiling. You can't get them perfectly perpendicular to the ceiling tiles because of the actual size of the camera. So I went online and I 3D printed a mount that they didn't make them. You can't find them anywhere. So I 3D printed a mount and I used this to set up our cameras for our live stream. And it cost me maybe 20 cents in materials and a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, this is stuff where like if they had this when I was in school, I probably would have wanted to like move, because at one point in my life I wanted to make toys. I wanted to make action figures in my life. So as you do when you're a kid, you want to be a cop, you want to be a bunch of different things. At one point it was like, I want to make toys. So this probably would have helped accelerate that. And who knows what I'd be doing now if they had this when I was in school. It's so cool. I know. And I'm sure kids just are so excited to show up to your class, Brett and Bill. Do you have your own class, or you're what's your title again?
So I'm the supervisor of technology, so I oversee all of IT for the whole county. And I actually I started what's called the Makerspace program. So we have the Makerspace at the high school, which is in Brett's room. He's kind enough to let me use his space and sort of pick his brain all the time. But then we do something so much like the middle school has a program. The elementary school has a quasi makerspace program. It's more guided rather than being, free and open. The high school one is really exciting because we've set it up as, hey, we've got the machines, we've got the supplies. It's stuff you typically wouldn't have access to. We're here for the knowledge. You come in and you make whatever you want. Go wild. Kids make lightsabers and 3D print and corsage boot. I mean, that's what we love. We want to inspire and enable kids to do that. Because they otherwise don't have that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It opens up so many like doors of creativity for them. I'm sure of it. So send us that link. We'll put that link. Is that something you would like for us to share? We could put. We want to give you guys some exposure for that. I mean, that sounds so cool, and
absolutely.
We'd love for more and more kids to get into the engineering space, because that's the future. So.
You guys might have to come to. You might have to come do a make with us. We'll film in the.
I would love that. I would love. I put on like an apron and stuff and do that.
Brad has a Spider-Man apron.
yeah, exactly. Yes, sir.
Man, there you go.
It's a great apron. So thank you for doing that. Let's move to the nerd box and answer some nerd questions. We got a couple from some close people of mine, and a pretty good one. So I'm going to start off with a question from my beautiful sister-in-law, Carrie Erickson. She sends in a question saying, who do you believe is the most underrated actor or actress in Hollywood today? So I'm going to start with you, Eric, because you're pretty good with who's who in Hollywood. basically.
Yeah, gosh, that's kind of a loaded question. There are a lot of really underrated people who, everybody knows who they are, but they don't know who they are. So we actually talked about the guy that I'm thinking, the guy that pops into my head immediately is Stanley Tucci. So I believe Stanley Tucci is one of those guys that you immediately know who he is, and every time that he's in anything, he gives you a dynamite performance. So everything from The Devil Wears Prada to the Transformers movies. I mean, the guy just is. He plays Arthur.
Dr. Erskine. Dr. Erskine and Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Erskine and Captain America. So he's in everything. Like, you've seen him in everything, but you may not know who he is.
Right.
And he's been around.
I know the name, yeah.
He's been around Hollywood forever, so he knows where all the bodies are buried, all that stuff. So
and all of his co-stars always just talk about how amazing he is as a person. So they love being around him. Great. That's a good choice, Eric. Yep. Bill, who do you think would be who do you think is the most underrated actor in Hollywood?
So I'm actually going to go with an actress. My wife and I just had this discussion. So I had seen her before. She actually plays a fairly throwaway role in The Handmaid's Tale, if you've ever seen it. But we just finished watching The White Lotus on HBO. It's an HBO miniseries.
I've heard nothing but good things about that.
It's great, but Sydney Sweeney, she is absolutely hilarious. And she's sort of starting to become bigger. She's getting her own movies and things like that. But she was so funny in The White Lotus.
Yeah, we're all looking her up.
Other characters. Yeah, I could see everybody like frantically searching on their computers to find who
she's also a very nice person. Very nice. She looks like a very nice person.
I didn't tell that by looking at them.
She looks very, very nice. I will say that. She looks like a very nice person. I think
she was in Peaky Blinders too. I think she had a role in that. I never watched it, but
either way, she looks like a very nice person. Good. Okay. I've never seen her anything. I can't wait to watch The White Lotus.
Yeah,
everybody who's watched everybody who's watched it says it's mind-blowingly good. So that's on HBO Max, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Brett, who do you have for the most underrated actress in Hollywood?
I'm gonna go with Dane DeHaan just because I've never seen a movie I hated him in, but that Amazing Spider-Man 2, like, he gets such a bad rap for being the Goblin. And to me, it's like, when it's something like that, how much control over that did he have?
Yeah, right.
Like, he was like, I loved him in Chronicle. Like, he's done a couple westerns now.
Yeah,
he's done a couple westerns now, and I love him in those old western roles. Like, it's like he's got that, like, I believe he could be a terrible, like, live in a dirt town kind of vibe. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but you know what I mean? Like an old western kind of vibe. Like, and I've liked everything he's in, and I don't think he's in enough. Like, every now and again I'll see a trailer with him in it and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go see it just because I like that dude.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've seen him in anything, so yeah.
I can't tell if you're messing with me. Is he messing with...
I don't know. I can't tell either. You don't know who Dane DeHaan is, Eric?
I don't, honestly. No.
Have you seen Chronicle?
I'm dead serious. No.
Have you seen Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, but I don't. I mean, I remember him. Yeah, I remember him, but I mean, other than that, I don't think I've seen him in anything. So I'm looking through his. I didn't see Valerian.
Valerian was good. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen him. So that's a good find. I'll have to check that out. So both you guys, Bill and Brett, both got.
If you're gonna pick one, pick Chronicle.
Yeah, Chronicle's really cool.
That had
you know, the guy who directed the most recent Fantastic Four movie directed that. It was kind of his like breakout film. It's like a found footage movie of like kids who get superpowers.
Michael B. Jordan is the one I'm talking about.
Oh, Michael B. Jordan's in it. I feel like there's another kid, but Josh Trank directed it. It was like his kind of like coming out party, and I think
that was like his big movie, and then they
really cool
put him on Fantastic Four, and they killed him.
Yeah, and he hasn't done anything since. And apparently that's not a lot about him. That's the studio that got involved there. So, if I had to pick something, I would pick an upcoming actor in the name of Timothy Chalamet right now. I think he is going to be a giant name moving forward. We've talked about him a few times. He's going to lead the Dune movie here very soon. He's the new Wonka. My favorite bit that he's done is a commercial at the Super Bowl where he played Edward Scissorhands'
Who is it?
son, Timothy Chalamet.
You picked him for... Because I see my recent search history, he's in it, and you must have picked him for one of the X-Men characters back when I think I picked him for Angel. Yep, that looks like it.
I think it was.
My search history is sacred. Like, I'm not trying to like.
Well, also, have you not searched anything since like 2 months ago? So I feel like if it's in your search history, that's not too far down. But anyway, Timothy Chalamet is going to be a big name moving forward. I think he's really a really talented young actor. My dog is continuing to freak out. So next on the
Marty.
I almost said next on the rundown, but we're still in the nerd box. So this question is from Banana. We all know who Banana is, right, Brett?
I got that now.
Okay, she says, who is the next up-and-coming director? So a little bit of a tie-in to the previous question about who do you believe is the most underrated actor. Who's the most who's the next up-and-coming director? And I'm going to say my answer right about so it doesn't get stolen. I think Taika Waititi is the next big director in Hollywood. It is not a cop-out. Not a cop-out.
He's already big. Like he can't get bigger.
He's not big. He's directed one big movie.
And they've locked him down from now to the end of days.
He's still up and coming. I mean, he's still up and coming. He hasn't directed anything big outside of a Marvel movie. He wrote and directed Jojo Rabbit, which was a small movie. His what's the movie he did right before Thor Ragnarok? It's not a cop-out because he's still up and coming. I mean, he's a well-known name, but he's still up and coming. Until he gets to, like, I would even say Russo brothers level, he's still going to be up and coming. Who do you think, Brett?
I mean, if we're going to do it like I'm going to go with Joss Whedon. I think he did this show called Firefly, and I think that's really good. So, I mean, he hasn't quite peaked yet, but I feel like he's going to.
I think you're an amazing smartass. I appreciate it.
No, I'm terrible with directors. Like, this isn't a question for me. This is not a question. I'm terrible with directors.
Bill,
BT, someone that I always talk to, like, he'll be like, "Oh, this person directed this." I'm like, "How do you know that?" He's like, "Oh, because doves flew there," and he always does that in every movie. I'm like, "What?" Oh.
Is BT right next to you?
No, Christy's here.
Oh, well, who does Christy think is the most up and coming director?
Okay, she's not in the room right now, but she was. She's
like always with you here. Is that what you're saying?
she just walked out to print something.
Gotcha.
On a regular printer. Paper printer.
I'll pass off to you, Bill. Who do you think is the best?
This is a hard one for me. This is a hard one for me too, because I'm like Brett, where I don't really pay too much attention to that. But I will say the one that comes to mind is Jordan Peele. I know he kind of like broke out with those two now horror films, right?
Yeah, maybe even three. Wait, he's got 2 out and 1 coming up.
One coming out, yeah. But yeah, he kind of blew up with that. I feel like
the Get Out movie, and then what was the other?
Which were very. I mean, I watched them. They were very entertaining movies to watch. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, Get Out, and gosh, what was the? I don't know. I'd have to pull that up. But Eric, while you give your answer, I'll look that up.
Sure. Yeah. So I kind of have 2, if I can. But one we talked about.
You should only pick one.
Kate Herron, then.
Okay.
From the Loki series. I will say that, if you're going to talk about an up and comer, I think she is going to be. I'm expecting good a lot of great stuff from her, and I think she'll be pretty amazing. I think, you know, from a different perspective, a guy who's maybe a little more established, but I expect big stuff from him, is the guy we talked about last week, Cary Joji Fukunaga, he just recently directed the No Time to Die movie, so that'll be the next big thing that you'll get to see from him.
Yeah.
But he did the True Detective. Yeah, he did the True Detective series, which was really great, and then he's doing that Masters of the Air. So, so those are my two.
Really
I made up for
good.
Brett. I made up for Brett. Only
Yeah,
one.
It's
you got to do that every once in a
I
while.
don't know who that Joss Whedon guy is, but he sounds like a
pervert.
Yes. Sounds like with a name like Joss Whedon, he sounds like a tosser. But you know,
yeah. Bill,
John Woo is the Doves. I had to look it up. John Woo always does
Doves.
There's always Doves.
He does have, yeah. That's a that. What's the replacement? No,
John Woo did Mission Impossible 2, right? No, what did
he did one with John Woo did one.
John Woo did Mission Impossible 2, I think.
I think so. He did
to
one
answer
with,
Bill's question real quick, or whatever it may have been. Get Out was his first one. Us was the second one in 2019, and then Nope is the next one that's coming out in 2022. So, bit of a. I don't know if they're all intertwined. You saw the first two. I don't know if they're connected in any way other than maybe they're happening in the same universe. But
yeah.
Either way,
if you haven't seen them, I definitely check them out. I mean, they're fun movies if you want to, you know, a horror night or something like that.
Horror night sounds awesome. Yeah, it sounds awesome on Halloween, and that's about the only time we watch horror movies in this household. Although I did recently watch The Quiet Place Part 2, which was freaking amazing. I loved it so much. We'll have to talk about that later, right? Because I know you watched it and loved it, and
I think we talked about it on camera here a couple.
But I hadn't watched it yet. I only watched it last weekend, so
I still haven't watched it. I want to.
Off camera, we'll have to talk about it. Yeah. I don't want to give anything away either.
So. That guy's another good actor, the guy who played Scarecrow, because he's you always recognize him.
Cillian
Murphy. He's great in everything, right?
His name, how do you actually pronounce it? Killian.
Is it Killian? Okay.
I just recently found that out, Cillian Murphy. You know, I changed my pick. I'm not picking Taika. I'm picking John Krasinski as my up-and-coming director. Since he directed
that's at least a little better.
Yeah, that may not be. Yeah, that may not be a bad.
Yeah, it's a better pick. And I retract my Joss Whedon then.
I picked John Krasinski for everything.
James Cameron. James Cameron, he's going to be big.
He's got some potential. So, thank you guys for those answers. They're really good questions. Thank you, Banana and Carrie, for sending in some last minute questions. Appreciate that. Giving us some chance to talk some nerd stuff, more nerd stuff than we did. Brett, I love you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for showing us some stuff. I'm blown away by what you guys get to do on a daily basis. You talk about loving what you do. That's awesome.
That work.
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
In your life.
And Bill, what a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming on. I'd definitely love to have you back on the show, whether it's maker stuff or not, because we'll probably have to do more maker stuff. I mean, this is too cool not to talk about on a more common basis, I guess, for lack of better terms there. But it was nice meeting you. I really, really enjoyed your feedback on everything we talked about today. Thank you for educating us. My dog is freaking out today. I don't know what's going on.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invite. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I love having you on the rundown. Thank you so much, Eric. As always, my man. Appreciate you.
Yep.
So with that being said, we'll see you all next week on the Nerd Rundown. Thanks for joining and listening in.